An island nation, Britain has long been an iconoclast among European nations. In fact, in many ways, Britain is hardly a European nation at all, having more in common culturally with countries like Australia, Canada, and even the United States. Given this status, and with a history unlike that of most of Europe, there was just no way we could get away with not bringing you the 10 things you didn't know about Britain. Everyone has heard of London. It's one of the great cities of the world, and if you've never been there, you probably have a certain picture of what it's like. You know, sophisticated Englishmen sipping tea and savvy Cockney-speaking taxi drivers, but the truth is, London is incredibly diverse, composed of people from all over the world, many of them not even English. In fact, there's been a phenomenon called white flight, which has been ongoing for years. This describes the departure of traditional white Britons from London to suburban areas and places outside of London because they feel alienated by what they perceive to be an increasingly foreign population. In 2013, experts actually measured the effects and came to the striking conclusion that only 45% of London is white British versus 58% in 2001, and this trend is likely to continue unabated. The United Kingdom is one of the most Eurosceptical countries in Europe. Britain has often been called the quote-unquote awkward partner in the EU, and countless polls and surveys have shown this. And with the Brexit referendum coming up, this shouldn't surprise anyone, but the real question is why this is the case. The United Kingdom has had a history of going its own way, from the creation of the Church of England to its truly unique style of governance, and culturally, it has more in common with other English-speaking countries. This special relationship with other countries, in particular the United States and Australia, is often cited by British Eurosceptics as a reason to leave and establish its own rules with which to deal and trade with them. But perhaps the essence of British opposition to the EU lies in its parliamentarian history and respect for order and the rule of law, and the participation of the public, which goes back as far as the Magna Carta in 1215, as the EU has shown itself to be greatly undemocratic, allowing unelected officials to create laws for any country, but without any public input. Most people have heard of Wales, which is part of the United Kingdom bordering the Irish Sea, but many people don't know that the Welsh are actually the descendants of the ancient Britons who were present after the last Roman legion had departed, and who had been in Britain centuries before Caesar first landed his ships in 55 BCE. Some people even know that the ancient Britons invited over the infamous Anglo-Saxons and Jutes to aid them in conflicts with the fierce Picts in exchange for a promise of land, which was followed by betrayal, conquest, and destruction at the hands of the people who would later become the English. But most people don't know that the name Wales and the term Welsh are the final insult added to injury given to the Welsh people by the English. The name Welsh is derived from the Old English word Wealch, meaning foreigner and sometimes slave, which means in modern English, Wales literally is the land of the slaves. This word can also be recognized in the German word Kauderwelsch, which means gibberish, originally a reference to words spoken by non-Germanic foreigners. King Arthur is a legend around the world. When you think of the legend, you tend to think of a shining knight wielding the magical sword Excalibur fighting evil, but most people do not know that King Arthur was probably based on a real person. Writing in the 6th century CE, the British monk Gildas describes the Battle of Mount Badon, where a Roman-descended war leader named Ambrosius Aurelianus defeated the opposing Anglo-Saxon force in a great victory. That might have been the historical Arthur, but the real legend began when the Welsh cleric Geoffrey of Monmouth wrote the Historia Regum Britanniae, or the History of the Kings of Britain in the 12th century. Considered a literary work of national myth rather than an actual history, it features cryptic prophecies by the wizard Merlin implying the messianic return of King Arthur, the so-called once-and-future king who will rise to redeem the true British. And who knows, maybe Arthur will come back one day to liberate the British people. But for now, David Cameron probably isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Britain is a first-world European nation, yet it's also a nation with the youngest parents. Everyone knows about the phenomenon of teenage pregnancy, but the United Kingdom is breaking records in this exciting new field all the time. The title of an article from 2015 reads, quote, "Britain's youngest mum, who became pregnant when she was just 11, was back at school within 6 weeks and is getting top marks, end quote. Her mother, the proud grandmother, was just 28 at the time. Another story reads, quote, killer convict to become Britain's youngest granddad, aged just 27, end quote. The British government has made various attempts to limit the number of teen pregnancies, but with little success. So it's unlikely that this trend will stop anytime soon. But you know what they say, kids just want to have fun. The laws of motion. You all know them, and who discovered them? Isaac Newton. Regarded either as the developer or co-developer of calculus alongside the German Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, no one can deny the Englishman's genius and scientific contributions. Without Isaac Newton, it's quite possible many aspects of modern technology and civilization would ultimately not exist, such as flight and computer technology. But Newton wasn't just a scientist. In fact, he was a little bit mad in the head as well. A fanatical student of the occult and a literalist believer in the Bible, Newton spent many an hour in candlelight interpreting biblical prophecy and its impact on the world, as well as practicing the pseudoscience of alchemy. Scripture was more important to Newton than science, and he saw the physical world he studied as a reflection of God's design. This is not exactly the most rational view, but you don't get to be famous without your quirks. A Puritan Englishman, Oliver Cromwell is a name that surely rings a bell. Catholic cleanser, military dictator, and unstoppable zealot, he is best known for his responsibility for the English Civil War that was born of his opposition to the English crown, then Charles I, as a staunch parliamentarian. But many people don't know that the Englishman had just as much impact on Ireland, if not more so, than on England. In fact, even to this day, Oliver Cromwell is the national villain of Ireland. Cromwell's legacy in Ireland is that of terror, oppression, murder, and destruction. After the Irish Catholic Confederation had taken control of Ireland, Cromwell launched a crusade against Ireland characterized by unmatched ferocity. Not even civilians were spared, as Cromwell marched ever onwards in massacre after massacre. In a short time, Cromwell had managed to conquer all of Ireland, merging it into the Commonwealth of England, Scotland, and Ireland, which led to the destruction of the Irish Catholic landowning class, who were replaced by Puritan Englishmen loyal to Cromwell's cause. The brutality of the Cromwellian conquest of Ireland is still remembered to this day, and has often stoked the fires of Irish nationalism against English influence and imperialism. Although most people can only think of blood pudding and fish and chips when they think of British food, the United Kingdom is home to a surprising number of sweets. Ranging from confectionery to pastries, from jelly babies to Pontefract cakes and flapjacks, the UK's food isn't just the bland stuff you may think you know, and in fact offers a wide range of foods to please the sweet tooth. Maybe you've heard of haggis, which is a famous national Scottish dish, but you might not want to know what it's made of. Haggis is typically made of sheep heart, liver, and lungs, minced with onion and spices, wrapped in the animal's stomach. Suffice to say, haggis is an acquired taste, but the reality is that the food stems from a time in the Scottish Highlands when there were limited resources and the Highlanders had to make do with what they could find, which was sheep in great abundance. Today, haggis has national standing, but it's a little odd when you consider its humble origins. The ownership of England has changed hands many times, but what most people don't know is that half of England was occupied by Denmark of all countries for 200 years. This area, called the Danelaw, which is to say where the Danes had legal jurisdiction, was the culmination of many forays into England on the part of the Vikings starting in the late 8th century, which later resulted in full-on conflict between the English and the Danish, which lasted until finally establishing a peace settlement. Many English cities and settlements actually have Viking names as a result, places such as York, Derby, Whitby, and many more. For more top lists like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out our other videos. And we'll see you all next time.